name is Erin Meyer. I'm the Sustainable Food Programs Coordinator at the University of California, Merced. My coworker, and I'll have him introduce himself as well, Guillermo and I decided to launch an AMA series and Ask Me Anything. So this is the third in the series with Rocio. So Guillermo, do you want to say a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. This is Guillermo Ortiz. I'm the Sustainability and Diversity Educational Programs Manager with the University of Merced. So in my role, I look at the intersection of sustainability and along many things, but social justice, environmental justice, and more here at the university. And so welcome the opportunity to host this with Aaron and get some really interesting perspectives from the community and really all different walks of life. And that's why we're here today. So thank you all for joining.
Rocio, would you like to introduce yourself as well? Rocio? Oh, you're muted, Rocio.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Rocio, and I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to be sharing a little bit about myself. I'm currently getting ready to start an all-natural juice bar in Merced, and my mission is to make it affordable, as well as provide wellness education, because I believe that's really important. I also have a background in tension release exercises, which helps individuals regulate their nervous system. And I'm also currently taking online classes for holistic nutrition. And then should I get started on my like more on how I got started, or are you guys gonna take it over from here?
That would be great. Yeah, let's hear about your background.
Yeah, so I became really passionate about nutrition and anything about wellness after having to experience seeing both of my parents suffer from what I thought were our preventative diseases. And so that's when I began thinking, okay, if they used a lot of natural remedies where they grew up in Mexico, then how come we don't have a lot of access to those natural remedies? So anytime I would get sick, then I would turn to these. I would go online and I would be really interested on learning how to heal anything in a natural way with natural remedies. So that's one way I became interested in it, and I also just started seeing how when like for example my mom when she became ill, like around her 50s, she would go to the doctor and get a lot of medications, but she would never get any information on how to prevent her illnesses. Just a lot of pills, and those pills eventually led to her kidney failure. And unfortunately, both of my parents passed away. And I wish there was more wellness education in the area. So that's how I became interested in wellness education for the community, as well as providing more access to healthy foods. And why healthy foods? Because if we're eating well, we're going to think well, we're going to feel well, we're going to want to follow our purpose, and eventually that leads to serving the community, because that's what we're meant to do, right? But if we're having a lot of more access to processed foods, then we're going to feel sluggish. We're not going to be thinking clearly, and it's going to be difficult to make the right decisions. So with more access to healthy foods, we'll be able to make better decisions and make the right choices for the community. So that's why that's one of the reasons why I decided to open the juice bar, because I don't really see that many places that where individuals can just go and have access to healthy foods. So that's one of the things, one of the main reasons for me opening the juice bar, as well as providing wellness education. And that also leads me to talk about, I was talking to Erin about how my parents immigrated from Mexico, and when they were alive, they would tell me how their lifestyle was way different over there. For example, they lived on a ranch in the mountains, and they would grow their own produce. They would have meat a few times a month. They don't really have access to a lot of animal protein, so that was like a luxury to them. And when they immigrated to the US, they had more access to an abundance of foods, meaning processed foods as well. And they didn't know the effects of them. And I'm not saying that their diseases were like mainly caused by foods, but I feel like that was one of the reasons. It could have also been from stress or other factors. But foods is one of the main factors, as well as stress. A lot of stress can cause a chemical imbalance in our bodies. But yeah, they had more access to these foods and not enough education. So I feel like they don't have the ability to know, okay, like if I eat this, we still had a lot of home cooked meals, but they like, for example, like sodas, and if they work and they don't have time to cook, sometimes they like going to the fast food places. And I also noticed in the lower income communities is being heavily advertised with these billboards with fast foods, high sugary drinks, and all these things that are not really helping the community. So that's where I noticed that, where they had this like clean lifestyle, and then once they immigrated here, they had access to all these other foods. So that's one thing that I wanted to bring up while talking about this. And I don't know if more wellness education or what could we do as a community to inform not just families that immigrate, but just families in general, what their plate should look like. And yeah, we have these a lot of information that is provided by the government, but it doesn't really apply to every family. It's like every family is different, and then their meals are going to look different. So that's one thing that I've noticed. So I found that really interesting. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up on how to make healthy food affordable. So if let's say I were to walk into a juice bar and there's a smoothie for $10, I'm thinking, okay, I can make the smoothie at home and pay way less. But I also like the fact of going somewhere. I don't have, maybe I want to go out and grab a smoothie, but how can I make this healthy food more affordable? And one of the ways that I thought about that was, so I saw this post that Erin shared about this restaurant in Denver, I believe, that is using food scraps to in the restaurant. So I thought, okay, I like being resourceful with my food, and I like coming up with creative ways to make any kind of recipe with the food that I already have at home. So then that idea came, okay, there must be restaurants, there must be, the food pantries that have leftover foods. How can I use these foods at the juice shop and make a juice or a smoothie or a salad out of it? So that's one way that I've been thinking of, how to prevent food waste, and then how to make something out of it. And that could either lead to providing it for free one day out of the week, or even selling it at a reduced cost. So that's one idea that I have for the business. And so I'm still thinking, so if anybody knows of any local farmers that has, leftover produce, and maybe I could buy it from them at a reduced price. If you can please let me know, I'd be really happy and to think of ways of how I can make something out of it. So I have talked to a local market in town, Lee's Community Market, and they're open to letting me use their leftover produce that they can't use. So when the leftover produce that I've seen that they told me that they can't sell, for example, if it's already looking wilted or like not as nice as when it's brought in freshly, then they're willing to let me have that produce. But one thing that I did notice is that they have a lot of produce that is brought in by Asian farmers. So I have to come up with a way to see what I can make out of the produce. It's a lot of vegetables. And yeah, so Erin was also thinking of ways to reduce the food waste that is going on there, because when I went in one morning, they did have a lot of vegetables that they were tossing just because they didn't look as fresh as when it was first brought in. Yeah, so that's another thing. And then the other thing that should I keep going, Erin, or should we go to questions first before I move on with the other things that I'm going to share?
Yeah, let's take some questions. Specifically, I have one. What do you advise I do with some of like my common food scraps? Like, do you have any recommendations for carrot tops, the green part, or some people, I like the whole thing for broccoli, like the top and the stalk, but
Yeah.
for other people that might be like wondering what to do with extra fruit and vegetables.
Oh, like with the top of the yeah. So usually like the leaf, the stem, anything that is gonna carry like the most nutrients. So we do want to definitely have that. Try to incorporate that into our dishes. But if for whatever reason you don't like it, what I've done in the past is I've either juiced it or I've added it to a smoothie. And if you add that piece of like the stem or the broccoli stem, you can't really taste it in a smoothie if you add a fruit to it.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah,
Let's
you're welcome.
some questions. Does anyone have any questions for Rocio? You can just unmute yourself and throw it out there.
Rocio, I have a question. This is Guillermo. Thank you for sharing more about your story, and in particular about your parents and kind of seeing them go through their health issues, and how that's inspired kind of the way that you're moving forward. I think of the same thing with my family. We have our grandmother who lives with us, and so we're always kind of thinking about what to do best for her health. And I think growing up, right, she didn't really have the same wellness knowledge, right? And growing up as a young child, she grew up in the Great Depression. So, a big part of her mindset is like, eat what you can or save what you can is a big part of that. And so, particularly for older folks, for the elderly, what do you think that folks should be in general getting in their diets or starting to look at, especially as they start to age?
So the part where you mentioned eat what you can or save what you can, I'm wondering if I guess it's just letting them be aware of portion control is one of the things that comes to mind right now. But the other major factor is making sure that they're getting the right nutrients, anything that's going to help them with their energy levels. For example, are they getting, and that's one thing that I'm thinking about right now, because every culture is different. So making sure that they're gonna like the things, the healthier options that are being made available. But one thing that I'm learning is making sure that they're taking something green every day, so that they have healthy cells that are going to be like that are going to be able to fight any any bad cells, any free radicals is what I call them. And so, yeah, that's really important. And so that's one of the things that I'm actually working on right now, is looking for ways of bringing healthy dishes to different cultures. And it's you know, I like them, but for these older generations is, you know, planning their dish. Like how can we make their dishes a little healthier? For example, like what kind of oils are they choosing? Making sure that maybe if they can make a healthier selection on their oils, like avocado oil instead of corn oil. Because it's, you know, it may be hard for them to transition. Like for me, I have no trouble having a bowl of salad, but if they were raised eating, you know, like their traditional rice, beans, and maybe their protein, then it's just making sure that they're gonna like it, but making sure that they're using better quality options if they're able to.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I have a question. Is there time? Or okay. The Cindy Lashbrook. I have a organic farm.
Hi, Cindy.
Under market for sure. If not, donate some. When are you getting? I missed the very first part because I was still loading my truck up to get back here. So, when is your juice bar opening?
I'm hoping. I don't have like a set date. I had a set date, but there are some things that I'm still getting. But if you want to follow my page, or if you want to follow my page on Instagram or Facebook under Kind Neighbor,
Okay.
then I'll be posting updates. If not, then the other way is if you are able to give me your email, and then I'll send you an email with updates. Or I'll also be posting it on Hotmaster once I get ready to announce the date.
Okay, yeah, Aaron's pretty good at that. Do you have any like freezer capability either now, or will you to put
A freezer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I plan on getting a freezer. I don't have that much refrigeration space at the moment, but I do plan to get some in the future.
Okay, yeah, because especially like blueberries and blackberries and stuff, the season's fairly short, but they're good to have.
Oh yeah.
In your mix
And what
all year long.
I think you cut off. I'm not sure what you said. Your organic farm. What kind of produce you have?
Mostly fruit. This time of year, we're just kind of getting toward the end of the blueberry season. Blackberries, some strawberries. We'll have, let's see, in the fall we have pomegranates and some persimmons. We have a few stone fruits. I need to get some more of those going, and I want a few grapes. But blueberries is what I would really like to get into the health system of my region. My
Okay, that's
here.
awesome. Yeah, because I do have blueberries as one of my ingredients. So, but do you sell, like, do you have a large amount to sell, or is it just for your family?
Oh no, we've got about 5 acres of blueberries.
Oh wow. Okay.
But it's getting toward the end of the season, so I'm trying to figure out if I can hold some for you for when you're ready. So that's why freezer would be good.
How can I get a hold of you? Do I talk to Erin about that, or?
Yeah, Erin definitely knows how to get hold of me, or my number's everywhere. It's 209-761-0081, and I can try to look at I was again walking around. So if you give me your page again, now that I've settled, I can send you
Okay.
something too.
Yeah, I can write my info in the chat box.
Okay. Okay, that sounds great. Okay.
Yeah, that's a really good idea, just for others as well, if they have other questions or, links to other farmers or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for the question. Indeed.
Sure, Karen.
All right, I'd like to see that magic happen.
Me too.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Anyone else have a question? We have plenty of time, just so you all know. We've got until 3, so feel free and take off.
Hey, Rocio, this is Guillermo again.
Mhm.
And I was really intrigued with your points on finding healthy, nutritious food that's also culturally relevant, and that's something that has been a topic of discussion on campus as well. One is just access to culturally relevant foods, and then how do we make sure that those things are nutritious? And have you considered ever doing a cookbook or anything related to that, or developing a menu, for example, of culturally relevant foods that are also nutritious? Because I do think that's something that, thinking about my grandmother again, I'm thinking of her. It is one of those things, right? Anything that she remembers eating when she was growing up, right? Those are the things that she loves, and then anything new, she's like, I don't want any part of that. And
Yeah.
so I think having that culturally relevant food is really critical to making sure she gets the nutrition that she needs. So have you thought about doing that?
I
Would you
actually
be
thought,
interested?
yeah, I have thought about that, possibly a cookbook in the future. There's other people who I follow who currently sell like culture. Well, the one that I follow, she does like healthier Latin foods, and she has like a restaurant, and she came up with a cookbook, which I thought was really awesome. But she's based out in LA, and so she really inspires me. And she's a vegan like Latin restaurant, and I was really inspired by her work. And she also came out with a cookbook, which inspired me even more. Okay, what can I do with this, with my work? So yeah, possibly in the future, I plan on doing a cookbook around around foods like culture, like Mexican foods, the foods that I would eat, but how because I still cook the dishes my mom would make, but I tweak them, and I make them I make them in a healthier way.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hey, Jennifer, did you want to ask your questions now?
Sure. I don't remember them. Let me pull them up real quick. So my question is more about the business end, Rocio, and I'm curious if you've had any kind of challenges. I'm sure there has been some challenges, right? Opening a new business, but what are some of the biggest challenges you've experienced so far, specifically opening a business in Merced?
Yeah, so some of my initial challenge when I first thought about opening a business in Merced was the first one was just my thought process, thinking whether the community would want such a thing, and if they would buy the product. that was one of my challenges that I thought, okay, are people going to buy this? And so what I did was I posted something on Facebook with a little menu. It was probably like 5 items, I believe, and to see if people would be interested. And I found that people were interested. So that was my first step, is testing the waters to see if people would like it, because that was my first challenge. So I overcame that challenge, and then people just started placing orders, and that's how I started. The second challenge was, once I started making the products, I felt like it was it took a lot of time. So it is labor intensive. And I thought, okay, is this worth it? Because it was just taking a lot of my time. So that was another challenge, until I had to overcome that thought. Because everything is going to take work. It's just, if we're willing to put up with this. So that was the second challenge. And the third challenge is in Merced. It's just like the regulations that they have with the health department and all that. And when I first started, I was making them from home, and any produce that's cut up and turned into a juice or a smoothie, they require you to have a commercial kitchen. So that was difficult for me because I didn't have access to a commercial kitchen, and if you have access to a commercial kitchen, your customers have to pick them up directly from you. You can't transport your juices or your smoothies because of the temperature control. So that was another issue for me. So then I just decided to hold off on making juices until I had access to an actual commercial kitchen, just so that I could meet with the health department requirements. That's the third challenge. I would say that those are some of the challenges that I faced in opening a business in Merced. And the rest of the challenges, I would just say, is just my mindset. I did encounter a lot of just thoughts that I thought would hold me back, but I just after moving from one fear to another fear, I just found it easier to move past those mindset barriers. So it became easier, and then I started gaining momentum, and so now I'm ready to open out of that commercial kitchen near downtown. So those are some of the challenges, and just I guess the first one was just if people would like the product. So that was the first one.
Thank you. I have a follow-up question. Did you encounter anything just unexpected with opening a new business?
Something unexpected, I guess, I would say would be getting access to capital. So I didn't realize that a lot of banks require you to have some type of, at least like 2 to 3 years in business in order to qualify for a loan. And by the way, that was another barrier, a challenge. I thought that I needed to have a large sum of money in order to start a business. And until I talked to another business owner in Merced, and she was telling me her experience on how she started a business. And she didn't make, she didn't make money. She didn't let money be a barrier for her. She said, I applied for a loan, but I would recommend to try to go to family and friends first to see how much they would be willing to loan you before you go to get a loan from a bank. So I was really encouraged because I thought, okay, money is not a barrier. I can get access to it either by a bank or through family members. So that's another thing that came up, and I didn't let that stop me. I didn't let the money part stop me because I felt like I can get it one way or the other. One thing that I did try to do is I tried to raise funds for it through this, I have to remember, Indigo. on, it's the site where you can raise funds by providing a service in exchange. So I did that last year, and I was able to raise $1,500 for the business, and I use that so far for supplies. And another thing that I did to help me get experience, because I've never owned a restaurant, is I went to work at a juice business, a smoothie shop, so that I can get experience. And I wanted to see, you know, what the management was like, how they ran the kitchen, what supplies they were using, just so that I knew what I would need once I started the business. So it was more for experience and how to get the hang of being behind the scenes to see what it would be like. So I went and I worked at a smoothie shop for 6 months to get some experience. And that helped me a lot because it allowed me to be behind the scenes to see, you know, what I would need eventually. So when I was planning to buy the supplies, I knew, okay, I'm gonna need this, and that. And if I wouldn't have done that, then I don't think I would have known, unless I looked up a sheet maybe on Google, okay, what are the supplies that I need to open the business? The other things, the other challenges would be that I've encountered would be knowing exactly like the operations. So planning for the operations, I didn't know that I would need to have like an employee manual handbook before starting the business. So then I learned about that, about needing an employee handbook that I would show my employees. That way they know what about how the management and how things are gonna go. Like I could tell them, but if they read it and they know about the policies that I have in place, then that's much better. That way they know the payroll, the different rules for the business. And there's templates online, so I did look at templates to see what they would be like, how they would look, and also the training. So I learned at the smoothie shop where I was working, I learned about the training. They had me sit and they had videos, they had a manual book. So I thought, okay, this is structured. People like structure. So I'm gonna make sure that I have this ready for my employees.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Oh, Lorraine, I was just about to ask that question about Rocio, if you had considered doing a mobile food truck instead of a physical building.
Oh yeah, so I did think about doing that initially. The thing that held me back was the health department requires you to have a commercial kitchen where you're going to store your products afterwards, like your refrigerated products, because you can't leave any food in the food truck overnight. That requires refrigeration. The other thing that they also require you to do is to have a place where you're going to dump your old water. So those things, I mean, they're not major, but it's just I didn't think that I wanted to do that. But I thought that would be a great idea because, you know, I could move around to different places, to events, and that sort of thing. So that's those barriers. Those are the reasons why I decided not to do that. So then that's when I started looking for a storefront. I looked at different storefronts, but the overhead price would just be too high for the rent. But I was already getting ready to start it. The thing that held me back, well, didn't hold me back, but the lease that I was looking into at the time, it didn't go through. Which for me was a blessing in disguise because right after that COVID happened. So then that's when I thought, okay, what can I do in the meantime? And I thought of a commercial kitchen, like just working out of a commercial kitchen and having people to come pick up the smoothies in there. Like all the juices, smoothies, salads, whatever is on the menu. So yeah, that's why I decided to do the commercial kitchen instead of something mobile.
Hi, Rocio. I have a
Hi.
question. It's been really curious. You explained that there's this like so much, there's a lot of challenging aspects, and it sounds like, yeah, it's like there's a lot going on. I'm curious, like, is there organizations or networks that you've been in touch with to sort of help you through this process, or is it um, also just like, oh wow, like you're out there like learning it all on your own?
Um, a lot of it I've learned on my own, but there is places in Merced that have access, where you can have access to mentors. I guess one of the reasons why I stepped away from that was because I think the person that I had as a mentor wasn't really supportive on the idea. Like they didn't think that Merced could use a juice bar. So I just thought, okay, well, that's a little discouraging. So then that's when I decided to do things on my own. But I would definitely go back, because there's some things that I have questions on in terms when it comes to like permits and all that sort of stuff. But a lot of the things that I've learned have been online. But I would say that I would go back and have access to mentors. Maybe I can get a different mentor that's a little more supportive. Yeah. So, but they have a lot of resources there, which is pretty cool. It's I think it's, what is it called? The Small Business SBA, I think. It's near downtown. And they have a lot of they connect you with the mentor. They let you know, like, if you want to open up a storefront, what permits you're going to need, like a list of things that you'll need to start a business. But they also have a website too, where you could go to. But if you feel that you work better with the mentor, it's a lot. It's really helpful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Oh, hi, Cindy.
Hi. Let's see. Again, I didn't hear all the first part because I was loading, unloading things. But do you see yourself doing any fermentations, like darn it, what do they call that stuff? Just went out
What
of
is
my
it?
brain.
Kombucha?
Yeah,
Oh,
kombucha.
okay. I haven't thought about that. I did think about having it on tap, like just buying it and then selling it that way, like having it on tap. But I have not thought about making it on my own. Do you know how to make that? Cindy?
I a little bit, but I have some friends who do a really good job. I don't know. It's just for the digestion thing.
Yeah,
Really
yeah. I like having kombucha, but if it would be nice to connect with your friends to see, do they sell it to stores or do they just make it for themselves?
Right now, they're just making it for themselves, but I can figure out. Again, I'm trying to find. Right now, our farm has like native elderberries just coming out of our ears this year. And then elderberry is supposed to be, I don't know how your nutrition and health thing goes, but good for fighting off viruses. And
Yeah.
so I would just love to find either a kombucha company that could use them for making that, or it's just what, if any of you guys on the phone call need some elderberries, we've got lots. We're going to do a workshop, not this weekend, but next weekend, a couple, on how to make your own elderberry syrup. So you've got your little tonic. But I don't know. I'm just really excited you're doing what you're doing. I think that's going to be a great little hub of health and deliciousness and nutrition. So, and then and a place for us, those of us that care about, basic good nutrition and plant health things can get together, hopefully.
Oh yeah. Where's your farm?
Livingston. We're right on
Okay.
the river. Yeah, like 20 minutes, 25 minutes from anywhere in Merced.
Yeah, I've added elderberries to my overnight oats, but they're the dried ones, and it was really good. I
Yeah,
really like
yeah,
the taste.
we soak ours in with our oats too. So far, we're at that age where we're kind of at risk, and it hasn't gotten us. But then we're out in the country too. Who knows? Who knows? Um, but yeah, we will have some local ones if you need or want them too.
Okay.
Okay, but kombucha might be good. So yeah, I'm sure there are some where you can buy and serve them from tap.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Hey, Rocio, it's Lorena.
Hi.
Hi. I was wondering, when you do end up getting your place, do you plan to have any like workshops for customers to learn a little bit more of how your juices actually help the body?
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I do plan to have. Did you have another question? I think you said.
me?
Did
No,
you have another? Oh, it was just the only question.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I do. That's one of my goals, to provide wellness education for the community, especially on how foods affect, like what the food that you're eating does to your body. So I'll be having a lot of workshops for that, and there will be different topics, but that's one of my goals, to provide more access to wellness education.
Okay, so it's gonna be also like a place not just where you go and sit down and enjoy your meals, but also seeing it be a place where you hold workshops.
Yeah, correct.
Okay,
So
yeah, I think that's really good, because at least for me, the way that I find myself wanting to be more nutritious is, and I think we all sometimes grow up thinking or hearing, oh, eat your greens and eat your veggies, and we don't really know why it's so important. But then once you know why it's so important and what it actually does in your body, you're more inclined to actually live that lifestyle where you're more intentional about your eating. So I think that's
Yeah,
really good.
I actually agree with that, because now that I'm taking the holistic nutrition, the online classes for holistic nutrition, I'm learning a lot about what each food does to our bodies and how it works, how it's going to make us feel, how it's going to improve our moods. And now when I'm selecting my foods, I'm reminded, okay, this is going to help me in this way. If I eat more greens, for example, I'm going to have more energy. If I take care of myself, like, so our cells renew every 30 days. And if I, like, for example, this is I don't know if it's okay for me to talk about this, but for my menstrual cycle, for example, I've noticed that when I have a clean lifestyle, I'm eating my greens every day, at least something green every day. I'm being active. When it comes to my menstrual cycle, I don't have cramps as bad as I used to when I didn't follow a healthy lifestyle. So that's one thing that I've noticed. Like, if you're following a healthy lifestyle, so it's not going to really help if I let's say if I eat really bad for 20 days, and then 10 days before my menstrual cycle I start eating well, because your cells will remember what you did the last 30 days, not the past 5 days or 10 days. So that's one thing I noticed, and I wanted to share that everything we do every day for our bodies, our cells will remember it when if we become sick, for example, our immune system is going to be stronger. So that's an example that I have.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think things like that, like information like that, really motivates me. And I think that a lot of people in the community, sometimes, you know, may not have time to look for information like that. And so for you to be able to give that information to our community, I think is really important, because it's just a lot of enlightenment, you know,
Mhm.
where it's like, wow, I really didn't know that. And
Yeah.
it's just a blessing. Yeah. So I can't wait. I can't
Oh,
wait for it.
thank you. Thank you, Lorena. Any other questions or topics? Erin, was there any other topics that we should cover that we talked about that we should talk about?
We were going to talk about the idea of like food justice and food sovereignty and how we can maximize that. I don't know if you have other thoughts on that, but just so we can kind of clarify, we wanted to provide the definition of food sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
It is, as the U.S. Food Sovereignty Alliance defines it, food sovereignty is the right of peoples to healthy and culturally appropriate food produced through ecologically sound and sustainable methods, and their right to define their own food and agricultural systems. It puts the aspirations and needs of those who produce, distribute, and consume food at the heart of food systems and policies rather than the demands of markets and corporations. So, any thoughts about how we can maximize food sovereignty and um, food justice, as well as provide more food access, I guess, in general?
Yeah, one of the things that came to mind was home gardens, teaching people how they can have their own little garden at home where they can grow their fruits and vegetables if they have a backyard. And then I know that there is a community garden on 18th Street. How is that going? Is it still available?
Yep. And we're taking
Okay.
volunteers. People can throw some seeds and raise beds if they want. I'm sure Steve would probably be fine with that. Steve, I think, might still be here. Yeah, Steve, do you want to maybe touch on that? Steve Russo's? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Yep. Hey everyone, yeah. I mean, it's a small garden, but it's definitely growing, and there's stuff. And there's some eggplants that were there yesterday that I checked. Some corn. I think there's plenty of space for it to grow some more. So I think there are probably 6 volunteers who are growing things right now.
Mm-hmm.
And if you either drive by the 18th Street Garden or just email People's Garden at CI, the number 4ci.org, then you can definitely volunteer. But there's lots of room to grow more things, and I think if we're lucky soon, I'm crossing my fingers, but Aaron and I are working on getting a fridge there where we can actually have some cooling space for produce as well, which will be great.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you know about how many families are fed through that garden?
The garden itself, not that many, because the food's just been coming out recently. So I think I wouldn't say there's actually families being fed, maybe 3 or 4 of just that are picking food. But the pantry that has come with it has been really exciting. So on the weekends, myself, Aaron, others who gather food from either the farmer's market or local trees will distribute food on Saturdays from 1 to 2:30. And it's been surprising that every weekend, there's about 30 to 40 families that come through, and they'll get potatoes and greens and citrus, and it's been fairly consistent. I think the most we may have had is closer to 45 or 50 families, but normally it's between 30 to 40.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, so my family, we have a garden in our backyard, and it's fed probably more than 30 families. The garden is not that, it's pretty big, it's a good size. So one of the other ways I thought is if people have a lot of space in the backyards and they're willing to start a garden for the community, that would be really awesome. And then the other thing I was thinking of is do you plan to just have it there or eventually expand to South Merced? Because I was thinking that sometimes people in South Merced, what if they don't have a way to access to get there to 18th Street?
Yeah, I think you're right. The whole concept, when it got started, this was funded out of the people's budget from Lee Lore, the participatory budget that the county had. And the whole idea was that the gardens should be located within walking distance of families that need the food. So you're absolutely right. And the 18th Street is just a model, and it's, you know, it's small, but it's surprising. Once it gets growing, I bet you will feed probably 30 families. But I think the hope would be to also do it near the other community centers. For example, we talked about having both McNamara and Stephen Leonard community centers that are both in South Merced. They have space for community gardens as well. And so I think that's, you know, within the reality of doing it, it would just take some neighbors to come together and do what happened on 18th Street, put the beds together and make sure there's water for, you know, for irrigation. The community centers also have water, which makes it a little easier. And I think it would just be a matter of residents asking for it.
I see. Yeah, because I live in South Merced, but it's kind of like the countryside on right there on Cone Avenue. And we do have a lot of space, but I guess one of the concerns my family would be up to, I guess one of the concerns that comes to mind is like if people get injured and like I don't know if people would sue or not, but like it makes me think about like if we would have to get insurance for that, because I believe I talked to somebody and they mentioned that if people are open for it, that your organization would provide the stuff for the home garden.
Right. So from what I understand, someone on the phone could probably correct me, but I think as long as you're not selling the produce, this is a volunteer effort as a nonprofit where we're doing it as volunteers and donating our food back to the community. Mm-hmm. There's a law there that says that, you know, that's not, people are volunteering on their own, and it's not something that you would sue someone else over. But it does mean that the property and the garden is all there for the community, and it's volunteer. No one's making a profit off of it.
Right. Oh, I see. Okay, so then there's a law that protects home gardens.
If they're volunteer nonprofit, correct. Yeah, and it's the same thing for if you're actually, you know, picking food from someone's, like if someone's gleaning food from someone's yard, and again, it's not done for resale purposes. It's done to pick the food and distribute it for free. And there's a name for this law. Someone on the Zoom might have the name for it, but it has a specific name.
Oh, okay, that's good to know. I didn't know about that law. So it makes me feel a little more at peace, and I can try to convince my family to do the home garden. There is a lot of people that drive by there and sometimes walk by our house. So that could be a possibility. So I guess if anybody on this call, if you have a large yard and if you're interested in doing a home garden, then who would they contact, you, Steve, or?
I'd be glad to answer questions and show how we did it. It did take effort. It took quite a few volunteers to put it all together, but it was not difficult in terms of, you know, designing it and getting the material. So anyone's welcome to contact me and I can share exactly how we did it.
Okay. Oh yeah, thank you for that information.
I'll put my email on the chat too.
Okay.
I had a quick question for Steve on that, if I could. Just when he's talking about nonprofit, does that mean it needs to be associated with an NGO, or just that household or whatever is giving it away for free?
Right. That is for free. That it's not for resale purposes.
Okay, so it doesn't need to be associated with an organization.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I'll find the link to the law too, because I had to look it up as well. These same questions came up when we were doing it, because it's the yellow house where the garden is, it's a private property. So it's the same. I'll make sure I find the link, but I'm going to post my email right now. and then people are welcome to send me any questions. But that'll help too, having the actual link to read up more information on it.
Okay. Yeah, that's one of the ways that I thought about having more access to foods. Yeah. So that's one of the ways.
Kind of with have you thought about? Can you hear me, Cindy?
Yeah.
When your shop is open, maybe having a sliding scale open, maybe having a sliding scale. What's happening? Anyway, on your somebody that can afford to pay the $10 you were mentioning would be getting their drink and possibly subsidizing a much lower cost one for somebody that can't.
What was the question? I think you cut off a little bit.
No, it was giving me feedback. Just when your shop is open and you're selling your smoothies, and you mentioned like a $10 smoothie isn't affordable for everybody, but it is for some people. And
Yeah.
if they knew they were paying the full kind of top price or whatever else they wanted to pay over the top of that, if it was going to a much lower cost drink for someone that couldn't afford it, they might be willing to do that. So just social justice, a way for people to
yeah, but now that you mentioned that, it makes me think of a business model. Another shop in LA that is doing the exact thing that you mentioned, and I really admire their business model, because the way they do it is they have in the higher income communities, they have their shop, their food eatery, regular, like their salaries are $8, and then in the lower income communities, they're a lower price, $5. And it makes it affordable, right? So that's one of the things that I'm trying to think of, how I can make it affordable for everybody. But I will have to plan for that. But I am thinking about doing that. On working on ways on how to make it more affordable for the community. So yeah, one of the ways that I thought is if I can somehow get my produce at a reduced cost, and that's when I thought about having buying produce maybe that's left over that I can get at a reduced, like really good price. Or if I have, like, for example, because each drink that I have has a certain amount of ingredients. If I had just plain, like a plain apple juice or plain orange juice, then I could that would reduce my cost, so that I would be able to sell it at an affordable price.
Yeah, that makes sense. I worry a little bit about produce that's over the hill, because it does kind of, nutrition can, be less if it's too old. But I'm also I would be willing, the days I feel flush, if there was like just a surcharge, here's your drink, you want to pay a little bit extra, and this goes into a fund to help lower income people get this healthy food.
Yeah, now that I think about it, yeah, like if there's people that are willing to
just kind of a tip that goes into a special place, beyond what that's all. Anyway, I'm really happy with what you're doing, and I hope you succeed amazingly. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Cindy. Yeah, and also if you ever want to do like a wellness, like a workshop you mentioned that you were doing a workshop on elderberries or something. If you ever happen to be in Merced and want to do a workshop, then that would be really awesome.
Okay, well, we'll talk about it, and you may need to come out to the farm for one of our events and talk about what you do, or even make us smoothies for the crowd.
Oh yeah, okay? Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
So these are fantastic questions. It is 3:02 to just respect everyone's time. I'm wondering if we want to wrap up, unless there's any burning questions anyone has for Rocio. Awesome. And thanks to Steve for adding that law in the chat, the bill on Pursuing Good Samaritan Food Donation Act. And if you have any questions about that, I can provide more insight as well. Steve did a pretty good job summing that up. And of course, yeah, thank you as well, Merced. So this will be recorded. I will send out a link to that as well. If you have any questions for Rocio, shoot them by me or her. And thanks for joining. Stay tuned for the next AMA, which will be on the first Monday of next month, with a very, very special guest. So thank you, Rocio. Thank you, Guillermo, and thank you to all the attendees for hopping in, and have a good Monday.
Yeah, thank you, Erin and Guillermo, for having me on here.
Thank you.
Yeah, if anybody wants to get more information about when I'm going to open the juice bar, you want to follow me on Facebook or Instagram, or I'll also be listing it on Crop Mobster once I'm ready to open.